gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's the 16th of May, 2024. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And mid-May, man, these days are going by fast. Coaches, seems like just yesterday, went out on the road recruiting, and now they're almost done. They've just got another week or two out there for their spring evaluations, and that'll be past them. Then it'll be camp season in June. Team will start working out in the meantime, and then before we know it, training camp's going to start end of July probably this year, with the opener on August the 31st. And I'm sure everybody saw that game time in Gainesville has been set for 3:30 in the afternoon on ABC. Going to be an interesting day indeed at the Swamp. But right now, today, as our news of the day, we do have a story on the website that we're going to talk a little bit about this morning. And that is the progression, the progression that Miami's offensive roster has made from 2023 until now. And listen, all came in, everybody wanted immediate results. That turned out, for whatever reason you want to put on it, it really doesn't matter, turned out to not be reality. Some of you I know want to blame Mario. Some of you recognize what a horrible shape the program that he inherited was in, and the different issues that were part of the roster. Well, now that roster has had a chance to be remade. We take a look at the offensive side of it today, Matt. And before I get into specifics, I mean, I don't know how anybody can argue with our conclusion that today's Miami Hurricane offense is significantly better than what we found in 2023.
I mean, yeah. I don't know what else to add. This is not.
I did a pretty good job teeing you up there. I mean, I gave you an open canvas. I said I'd go into specifics after you had the opportunity to speak.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think? It's a lot better, right? I think it's a lot better.
Yeah, and it's a lot better. This is not. I'm not a fan of the transfer portal, but the transfer portal has made the offense better. So I want to make sure people understand the difference. To me, a one-year fix in the transfer portal is very easily done. The issue for me is, can you do it every single year? Miami certainly has done it this year. Long term, I still think that you build a roster through recruiting and then you patch holes with free agents. But there's no doubt, as you look at this year's offense at every single position compared to last year's, that it's at worst the same and certainly overall much, much better than last year.
All right, well, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's go through it a little bit and explain to everybody why we feel the way that we do, in case anybody wants to disagree. And I don't think anyone's disagreeing that we're calling the upgrade from what we call error-prone Tyler Van Dyke to Cam Ward sight unseen, I will add. We have not seen him take one snap for the Miami Hurricanes. He came from a very average Washington State team. He was a star, no argument. 25 passing TDs and just 7 interceptions, 8 rushing touchdowns. Cam Ward was a star, no argument, but the team was dog poo-poo, okay? Not very good. And but now Cam Ward has much better talent around him. And we're not really going out on the limb here saying it's going to be better than the Tyler Van Dyke that we saw the last 2 years after Rhett Lashley left to go to SMU. But it extends beyond Cam Ward when you look at the quarterback position. They brought in Reese Poppenberger with the idea that he would be the starter. Then they got Cam Ward, but Reese stayed. That was a huge development because now you don't have to rush Emory Williams. And I think we saw Emory did pretty well last year, but he's not really ready. He wasn't really ready. We watched him in spring practice. He did fine, but you didn't exit any of those practices saying, man, wow, Emery, man, he's going to give Cam a run for his money in the fall. No, that's not happening. Okay. Emery is probably a notch below Reese right now. There's not that big of a disparity, but the point I'm making is they've improved the quarterback position, not just at number 1, but at number 2 and number 3 as well. And it's all good. And we call this an absolute net gain, Matt. I'm going to let you talk about this, and hopefully you'll have a little bit more to say than the last topic that I teed you up on. But you got to agree with of course, that the quarterback position's in a pretty decent spot right now, if you're realistic. I mean, you got Judd Anderson as your 4th teamer, true freshman, which is about right. I mean, I don't see too many issues with the quarterback position right now.
No, I mean, it's all, look, if Cam Ward wasn't here, I'm not high on this quarterback position. I mean, Reese Poffenbarger is 6 feet tall. If that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I agree.
And 208 pounds. He looked okay this spring, but at Albany, he's not thrown against 6'4" to 6'6" defensive ends and 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackles pushing into his face. You got to throw much tighter windows at this level of play. I'm not sure he will be successful. And honestly, I'm a little surprised that he's still here because he already redshirted. He's going to be a backup. He has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He's basically wasting a year of eligibility this year just sitting on the bench. I mean, we already know that's what he's going to be doing. There's no, he gets 2 red shirts. Like, that doesn't exist. What that tells me is that Miami's paying him the most money that he could have gotten. Right. He could have left in the portal if somebody else had offered him more money, and nobody's that interested in a 6-foot-tall, somewhat mobile quarterback who was pretty good at Albany, but you have no idea if he'll be any good at this level.
Yeah, he signed an NIL deal with Miami on the basis that he was going to be the starting quarterback.
Right. So that's a contract. He has that money, and he's not going to go anywhere because of the money. But next year, I'm not sure that he's going to be any better than Emory Williams. And if if Emory Williams doesn't progress, they bring in another free agent quarterback if they keep having the money to spend, because that's just what you do now, But with Cam Ward this year, and we're looking at this year. So with Cam Ward this year, I did a little bit of research, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Gary. Do you think Miami's ever in one season had a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver in the same season?
Wow, they must have.
Once.
Back like 2001, maybe.
2000. It was 2002. I think it actually was. It was Andre Johnson and McGahee, I want to say. 2002. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, not only could that happen this year, but Miami, for the first time ever, could have 2 1,000-yard receivers and a 1,000-yard rusher in the same season. There was 3 teams, based on what I looked at, if I remember correctly, there was 3 teams this past season that had 2 1,000-yard receivers on their team at the same time. And if Shannon Dawson does what he did last year, this year, which is just play his top 3 receivers almost all the reps, 80+% of the reps, which is what he did after telling all the media he's going to use 9 receivers in games. Remember that? Then there's no reason that Jacoby George can't hit 1,000 yards with Xavier Restrepo, or a different receiver maybe, getting 1,000 yards. Because Cam Ward was number 4 in college football in passing yards last year. Like, that's how good he is. And I have no doubt Damian Martinez will get 1,000 yards rushing. He's going to be the featured back. There's really no competition for his reps at this point, if Mark Fletcher is not 100%. And the last time Shannon Dawson had a featured back, it was when he was at Southern Miss, and Ito Smith had over 1,000 yards 2 years in a row as the featured back. If you add up Mark Fletcher and Henry Parrish's rushing yards last year, I think it's somewhere in the 1,100 plus range, right? And neither of them played over 400 reps, either of them. So I have no doubt if Martinez stays healthy, he's over 1,000 yards rushing. That's a no-brainer. I have no doubt that Restrepo will have another 1,000-yard season. To me, that's a no-brainer. You could see it this spring. It wasn't just Tyler Van Dyke's boyfriend out there. This is a guy who actually is a really good receiver, okay? And Cam Ward knows that. And you could see the chemistry they developed.
I can't believe the terminology you just used.
You asked Xavier about his boyfriend, so don't start with me.
I didn't tell you to say he was Xavier's boyfriend.
He literally responded to your question in the spring by saying, it's not like it was my boyfriend. All right? He said something like that. I remember it.
Right, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, but the point is, I have no doubt they're going to have a 1,000-yard receiver and a 1,000-yard rusher. The question is, could they have two 1,000-yard receivers and a 1,000-yard rusher? Because that's how good Cam Ward is. When you look after him, is the depth great? No, but it's still better than last year's depth because Jakari Brown wasn't particularly good when he came into games. He just wasn't ready. As good as people think he is, he didn't perform. In Rutgers' game, he was inconsistent. He just wasn't, he wasn't there yet. And he might get there, but he wasn't there yet. And Emory Williams was so constrained when he went into the games, the two games that he started against Clemson and Florida State. I mean, Florida State, he was like 8 for 23 passing or something, if I remember correctly, not many yards. And against Clemson, they barely had him throw the ball down the field. Like, if I remember correctly, out of all the passes he threw all year, I think 8 went for over like 10 yards or something crazy like that. So, the depth is still questionable, but you got Cam Ward, so it's an upgrade no matter what at quarterback.
All right, and moving on to the running back position, we think that one is also an absolute net gain. I mean, when you look at it, Mark Fletcher is hurt right now. Where there is not a lot of certainty that he'll be ready for the start of the season this year, but that's okay because you went out and you got Damian Martinez. You've done a great job developing Christopher Johnson. Chris Wheatley-Humphrey looked very good in spring practice. He's like a clone of Johnson, maybe not quite as fast, but capable of helping if you need him to, which hopefully they won't, because of Jay Allen should be back. Now, the wild card here is the guy that was recruited as a tight end. That's Elijah Lofton, because when they put him at running back in the spring and we watched him, man, he looked like Stephen McGuire to me. I mean, he is a freaking dude, this kid, who can contribute in many spots. So they always have the option of putting Elijah Lofton in the backfield as well. So you're replacing Henry Parrish and Trevante Citizen. No big deal. You also have a true freshman, Jordan Lyle, coming in that I would have said before they got Martinez was almost certain to play a lot this year. Now I'm not sure how much they're going to need him to play with Martinez coming back, and hopefully Mark Fletcher does make it back at some point. Although with these other guys now in the equation, I think I'd rather see Mark Fletcher redshirt this year and get himself totally healthy. But we will see how that plays out. But Matt, I think when you add it all up, when you look at the fact that Martinez, the ability that he showed at Oregon State, now coming to a Miami offense where you got a good quarterback, you got a really good offensive line. I don't think you and I disagree at all that this is a absolute net gain at the running back position.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about the story this morning. The offensive line is really the only position that probably didn't have a net gain from last year because they lose 2 starters. I think it's a downgrade from Matt Lee personally. That's just my opinion at center. And the left guard spot's still unsettled, what they're going to do there. So, you could call it a really good offensive line if you want to, but like in the real world, I'm not sure the line's going to be as good as last year's line was. The hope is it can be better. But until I see that, I'm not going to proclaim this a better offensive line than last year. With that said, it's a better running back than last year. Mark Fletcher doesn't have breakaway speed, good strength, size, all that stuff. But in the old days, you'd call him a fullback almost. That's just the truth. And Henry Parrish was okay. He was okay. Henry Parrish was okay. He wasn't great. Damian Martinez is great. Damian Martinez has everything. He has quickness, speed, agility, mobility, vision, power. He's got it all. And he wants to show that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And guess what? 2 years ago, Shannon Dawson's running backs caught 60 passes out of the backfield, the entire running backs room. So Damian Martinez is going to be a huge factor. You mentioned Elijah Lofton. I'll be a little bit surprised, quite honestly, if he gets a lot of carries. He's a true freshman. They needed him there at running back in the spring because they only had 2 other running backs. And I understand you want to compare him to Stephen McGuire and whoever else. Like, I get it. He's a big physical body. I could see him maybe in short yardage, goal line type stuff, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, short yardage. I could see that. But again, it's almost like, are you going to take Cam Ward off the field in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 to bring in, the Jakari Brown of this year? Like, no. So
I didn't say they're going to put him at quarterback.
No, I'm making an example. Why would you take Damian Martinez off the field ever? You just want to, like AJ Allen. I get it. You want to put him in a little bit to spell him, but But you're not putting Elijah Lofton at running back on 1st and 2nd down. Like 3rd and 1, goal line, I get it. But again, why would you put him in when you have Damian Martinez? You're going to put a true freshman on the goal line in crucial short yardage situations? I'm putting Damian Martinez in those situations. So I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Elijah Lofton has less than 5 carries all year. But I think he makes a huge impact catching the ball out of the backfield. He could line up literally next to Cam Ward on one side with Damian Martinez on the other side, and they can do all sorts of innovative things that way. He could be an extra blocker. He could, chip a guy and go out for a pass. He could just run a route. Like, there's so much more you can do when you have a guy with that skill set. But handing him the ball and calling him a running back, if they do that, they're out of their damn minds. I'm giving the ball to Damian Martinez and A.J. Allen all day long over him.
I mean, Damian Martinez wasn't there in spring practice, so, it's hard to really comment too much on what you're saying. But I will tell you this kid looked pretty good to me in spring practice when they gave him the ball. So, it'll be interesting. The bottom line of all this as we move forward into the receivers now is that Shannon Dawson's got a lot of options and a lot of different pieces this season that I don't think we could say he had last year. I mean, the onus is on Coach Dawson, man. He's got to get this thing done and have this offense rocking and rolling, scoring, if not 40 points a game, pretty damn close to it. There's no reason Miami should not be one of the better offenses in the country. Now, I'm not going to call – I've been saying that Miami for a long time needs a number 1 receiver. I'm not calling Sam Brown a number 1 receiver. Yes, he had 815 yards last season at Houston, was brought in out of the transfer portal. He'll be competing with Isaiah Horton to start at receiver. But I'm still not sure that Miami has a number 1 receiver. But. Okay, you lost Colby Young, who had 563 yards last year on 47 receptions. You lost Brashard Smith, who had 22 catches, 263 yards last year. Okay, now you've replaced Colby Young with Sam Brown, okay, who had 815 yards last season. That's pretty good. You've also brought in true freshmen, a couple really good-looking true freshmen, JoJo Crater and Nikar. You got Ray Joseph going into year 2, who hopefully should be better. You got Jacoby George coming back, and you've got Restrepo with his 1,000-yard resume coming back as well. So I don't know if they'll have 2,000-yard receivers, but I think they're going to be good enough at receiver. I think there will be times, Matt, where they still wish they had that 6'3" guy that can just blow the lid off of the defense and go deep and outrun everybody. I'm not sure they have anybody really like that. But I think that when you put the sum of all parts together, that they do have enough at receiver for that position to be enough of an asset towards the offense that people will be happy with. And we're calling that a net gain from last year as well.
I mean, you say you're not sure if Sam Brown's a number 1 receiver. I'm not sure he's a number 5 receiver. Isaiah Horton, you can see against Texas A&M, he has the speed and the size that you want as your number 3 guy. You don't need a clone of Jacoby George on the other side who's slower, And I know Sam Brown, people are like, oh, he runs a 4.4. But when he plays, he looks like he's running a 4.6. And I'm not the first person to say that. You look at his 2 longest gains from last season. I watched the clips, and you guys can probably watch them too. I mean, we posted it with the stories. One of them, the Texas safety, who I understand Texas, they have pretty fast safeties, but he's 10 yards behind Sam Brown when Sam catches the pass. Stumbles, gets up, and then catches him from behind on like a 40-yard gain. Catches him from behind, just running straight upfield, no angle. Okay, you could watch that clip. And then the other clip was on the left hash. Sam Brown makes the catch like 5 yards ahead of the cornerback and gets run down. Well, and this is against a bad team. This is against a lower level opponent. So you got to assume the cornerback's like whatever. I can't remember what team it was, but nobody good. And the cornerback literally runs with him, maybe gains a little bit of ground, and the safety easily takes an angle and pushes him out of bounds, even though he was just wide open on what would be a Brashard Smith easy touchdown type of deal, right? Like you see him catch it, nobody near him, that's going to be a touchdown, right? And it's not even close. So I know Miami fans don't want to hear this stuff. Like, it's just, you can literally look at the film that I looked at. Just look at his 2 longest catches from last year. You'll see the exact plays I'm talking about. The first 6 games last year, he had 100 yards in basically in 5 of them. I think one of those 5 was 99 yards. I'll count that as 100. Okay, I'll give him the extra yard. The last 5 games of the year, I don't think he passed 40 yards receiving in any of them. Like there's consistency questions, there's speed questions. Like I get it for whatever reason. Mario loves to bring in receivers in the portal. Frank Ladson, Colby Young, the kid from Alabama, Terrell. What was his name? Okay, he barely played. I don't remember his name anymore. The 4-2 guy from Alabama, right? Like this is just what Mario does. Like he just figures, why not? Like more competition, more competition. Sam Brown, I'm predicting will not start. Okay, I'm just going to say it. He will not start. I think JoJo Trader plays ahead of him. I think Isaiah Horton plays ahead of him. And when I say play ahead of him, I think they get more reps than him throughout the season. So that's just my opinion.
Prediction.
And I think Jacoby, by the way, I think Jacoby George and Xavier, those are the 2,000-yard receivers I'm talking about. Those guys are off the charts better, experience-wise, skill-wise right now than the rest of these receivers. And JoJo Trader can get there, but he's a true freshman. And Isaiah Horton's good enough, but Isaiah Horton's not gonna, 400-yard guy, 500-yard guy, 5 touchdowns. That's what
Matt Shodell going out on the limb here.
I'm not going on a limb. I'm basing on what I see. Like I'm using my actual eyes instead of just you saying, what the party wants. Like I'm not a member of the Communist Party, Gary, like you. Okay, I'm not part of the North Korea regime where I just tell the fans what you're told to say. Like I actually look at stuff and tell you what I think. Like that's what I think. This. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Sam Brown's the greatest. That's easy to say. Because it sounds good and fans love to hear it, but that's not how I roll, man. I'm Mr. Negative. I hate everybody.
You're saying that one of the prize catches of the late portal period is not going to be a starter, and I'm guessing that when they got him, it was with the intention that he would be a starter. So that means that somebody's going to rise up here in training camp and beat him out, Isaiah Horton or JoJo Trader.
Somebody could sink down. It doesn't mean somebody rose up just because they're starting. Why does every reporter and every fan, when somebody gets the starting job, oh, they blew up, they were amazing? No, the other guy might have just sucked they were competing with. How about that? Is that possible? Does that ever happen? Could that be? You don't know.
All right. Well, the tight end position we're calling a net gain also. And I mean, honestly, it's not hard when you factor in how little the tight end position was used last year. But you do have a healthy Elijah Arroyo. He looked great to us in spring practice. We feel really big about him. Riley Williams is a little bigger, appeared to have improved his game a little bit when we watched him in spring as well. When you need a blocker up there, you got Cam McCormick, that piece that you could slide right in there. And then you got that freshman again, man, the guy that we talked about when we were talking about running backs, and that's Elijah Lofton. This kid literally is a Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere. Put him at H-back, you put him at tight end, you can put him in the backfield. He figures to factor in somewhere. There's no way they're going to have a player with his kind of ability, with his kind of matchup nightmares, and have him sitting on the bench all year. There's no chance. So I think we're going to see Elijah Lofton at tight end and H-back as well as running back. I happen to think he'll be used a little bit more than Matt does. There's no reason to run Damian Martinez into the ground like that when you have these other talents. But all in all, you put it all together. We think this tight end position is a net gain. Matt, is it because it couldn't be possibly be a net loss because of how poorly they used the tight end last year? Or do you think this position is flat legit going into the season?
I love how your headline is Matt Shodell said to run Damian Martinez into the ground. Didn't I mention I'd use A.J. Allen?
You said that Elijah Lofton wouldn't have 5 carries on the season.
And
why would you ever take Martinez off the field like he's supposed to play 80 snaps? Like, it's not happening.
Right. And if you listen to what I said I would play A.J. Allen over a true freshman tight end at running back. That's what I said. I said in key situations, Damian Martinez should be on the field, not Elijah Lofton. I said A.J. Allen should be the backup, if Mark Fletcher's out, because otherwise you got another freshman, Jordan Lyle, probably. That's what I said. Whatever you want to say, me running into the ground. He is the feature back. He's going to get, 15, 17, 20, 25 carries a game. Like, that's what feature backs do. I'm not saying give him more than that, but he has to be in the game for the key plays, 100%. If that's your definition of running him into the ground, that in a close game, I want him having the ball on 4th and goal from the 2 or the 1, yeah, then run him into the ground. That's what he's here for. That's why we're paying him for 1 year, okay? Run him into the ground. But no, I'm saying Elijah Lofton should not be the number 2 running back when he needs a rest. That's all I said. But the tight end room, there's no doubt. It better be better. The leading receiver had 72 yards from the tight ends room. And I'm not talking about in one game. I'm talking about for the entire season. For the entire season. It's unheard of at Miami. I'm not sure Elijah Arroyo is going to stay healthy. Like, I know everyone will say, "Oh, he's back, he's healthy." Like he was running around on a knee brace all spring. He looked okay. Some days he looked really good. Other days he looked like he had a little limp, a little not limp, a little gimp in his step. How do you say that? I don't know if that's even. Are you allowed to say gimp? Is that a bad word? I don't know. What?
He looked much better to me. I don't know what you were watching.
Yeah. Well, what are you comparing him to? When you say much better than his freshman year,
what he looked like 2 years ago. He didn't look very good in the fall.
No, he's been hurt for 2 years. Yeah. So I'm not sure when he runs, he's not looking fluid. Is all I'm saying. He looks like his old gimp in his step. Like that's just what it is. Some days he looks good to me. We're going to disagree on this. He looked like me when I wake up in the morning. Some mornings I wake up, no problem. I can walk to the bathroom on my own accord without stumbling. Other days I'm tripping over furniture. Like some days he's tripping over furniture and going to the bathroom on Green Tree. Like, what do you want from me? Like that's just how he looked.
That's but other days he looked great. We could have lived without the visual of you waking up to go to the bathroom.
I mean, listen, everyone knows that people wake up to go to the bathroom at our age. It's not like a well-kept secret, all right? But anyway, if he is 100% this fall, great. Because he's a do-it-all guy. And you know what? Everyone's counting out Riley Williams. I don't know why. Like, he's gotten bigger, stronger. He looks really good. He actually looked a little faster. I thought at the beginning of spring, I thought he looked too slow. But as I watched him more and more, he's actually just has a really long stride that makes him look deceptively slow. But he's quite fast. And he's, I think, got the physicality now to be a blocker. He has experience from last year. Wouldn't shock me if Elijah is, still, taking his trips to the bathroom every morning in the fall, if Riley surpasses him. But what's interesting is really the way they're using Elijah Lofton is, I don't know if fans realize this or not, but he's not competing with Elijah Arroyo. Like, fans always think there's one starting tight end. The way Shannon Dawson is doing it is they're playing two totally separate positions. When you watch them all spring, like, they were not playing the same position. Okay, he's created an actual, like, real bona fide H-back position now that Elijah Lofton is playing, and I can't remember. There was another tight end there. Maybe it was Jackson Carver. I don't remember. Some other tight end was there with him. Yeah. And at the other spot, it was Cam McCormick, Riley Williams, and Elijah Arroyo. So I think that's great. Because they want to incorporate a couple of tight ends in different scenarios. You don't have to use them all the time. And in passing situations, you don't really need Elijah Arroyo. Like, if your best tight end receiver is Elijah Lofton, which I believe is the case, and it's 3rd and 11, like, I don't need two tight ends in the game. Elijah Lofton can literally be in the slot matched up against a smaller nickel. He could be in the backfield trying to get something out of the backfield, and break it free, whatever. Like, that's what I want to see. I don't necessarily think that Elijah Arroyo is going to have this huge season receiving wise, but he's a guy who can do it all. I think Elijah Lofton leads the team in receiving. I think Elijah Arroyo is the guy who sort of helps in pass protection, run blocking. I think Cam McCormick is the guy who's going to be getting water and Gatorade for Elijah Arroyo and Elijah Lofton. That's how I see it.
Sorry, Mrs. McCormick. I know you watch the show every morning.
I'm sorry. Everyone
apologize for him.
Nobody likes me anyway. I can offend whoever I want. I don't need to apologize anymore. Everyone hates me.
So cold. That was so cold. Listen, this is like
my wife wants to get.
He's playing his 9th year in college football.
She wants to get an oil change. She wants to get an oil change yesterday. And she goes to, I think it was the Tire Kingdom over Sunset and US 1. And, it's under my name, the car, in their computer or whatever. And the guy's like, oh, Matt Shodell, he does that morning show, right? And my wife's like, yeah. And somehow we wound up paying $120 for an oil change. So, I'm thinking the guy doesn't like this. Nobody likes this. So add McCormick to the list. Mrs. McCormick, his cousins, his uncles, his aunts, his nieces, whatever, man. Just add them to the list. I mean, I'm just counting the fans I have, which is my mother at this point.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, this kid's going into his 9th year of college football. It's a celebration of achievement.
Well, you know what I can't stand?
To play 2 careers of college football.
Here's what I can't stand. This is my problem. I can't stand these Homer podcasts, not for Miami, but for any school, where everyone's great. You bring up any player, oh, he's got so much potential. Oh my God, he's going to be amazing. He could do this, he could do that. Like, it's not true. All 85 players on scholarship on the team are not great players who are going to contribute amazing amounts of, production in the coming season. Okay. Like, that's not for me. Like, that's just, you need to watch. If everyone hates me, I don't care. Watch different podcasts because they will tell you how great everyone is. That's not what I do.
But Cam McCormick's presence is for one reason. If they need a blocker in a short yardage situation, they can put him out there, and he's a tight end that's almost an extension of the offensive line. That's why he's here. That's why he's survived 9 years of college football. I don't think he had a disrespect.
Well, let me ask you a question, Gary. You're the coach, okay? You're on the goal line, playoff berth on the line, 4th and goal from the 1. You're running the ball, okay? You're down by 6 points, whatever, and you want to put in your best extra tight end, lineman, whatever. Are you putting Cam McCormick out there, or are you running out Samson Okunlola, Markel Bell, and just throwing a tight end uniform on one of those guys? Because that's what I'm doing. So you could say whatever you want.
Damn, I hate when you make good points. I hate it. I hate
Even
it.
Matthew McCoy, like whatever. I mean, that's why I don't think it's gonna have a big role. Like I just don't see it. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, if there's injuries, he'll have a role. But otherwise,
the depth on the offensive line, you're making a point. Would you rather put out an extra offensive lineman as the tight end, or would you rather?
That's what they did last year, by the way. I'm not making this up from like nowhere. They did it last year with Okunlola when he was healthy, and with Matthew McCoy numerous times.
I know. Yeah, listen, you're making a good point. I don't like how cold you were towards Cam McCormick. He's a nice kid.
I wasn't cold.
You were cold. You were
saying that they have to get water and Gatorade for the guys. That's a nice thing. It's because Cam McCormick's a nice person. If I thought Cam wasn't a nice person, I would have said he'll just sit there and watch them get their own water and Gatorade. But no, I said he would get it for them because Cam McCormick is a nice person. I was giving him a compliment. How nice he is to get that for them. It's a matter
That's as ruthless and cold as it gets. And before everybody gets too annoyed with you, I better tell everybody right now that if you like our channel, for some reason like this show, despite Matt Shodell, hit your subscribe and like buttons if you're on YouTube. It does help us with the algorithms in improving our audience. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please come on over to our website, become part of our fan community, and allow us to do what we do every single day to overcome the presence of Matt Shodell and enhance your fan experience. Okay. So don't let Matt bother you. We got a whole other staff over there. We got Zuby, Steven, myself.
Yeah, bring those guys on. So why am I on this show all the time? I don't understand that at all. I really don't.
Despite that, we will do everything we can do to overcome the handicap that's Matt Shodell, and make things as good as we can for you as a fan. So come on over to CaneSport.com and subscribe. But Matt, let's move on. Let's try to talk about the offensive line here. And without offending anybody now, this is a debatable subject, okay? Because Miami's offensive line was pretty good last year. They lose Matt Lee, they lose Javion Cohen, and now we have to sit here and determine if it's better, worse, or the same. And the instinct, I agree, is to say at best the same because they lost Javion Cohen and Matt Lee, who both had pretty decent years. But here's where I run into a little bit of a conundrum on this subject. Javion Cohen didn't get drafted. Matt Lee got drafted, 7th round, right? So, the NFL yawned at these Miami offensive line products, which I don't like. I'm going to admit, I was pretty shocked by that. I thought they'd go a couple rounds earlier. I mean, Javion Cohen and Matt Lee were the plum catches in the NIL class of last year, and they both started. And Miami's offense in the running game put up decent stats. I thought they did an okay job protecting the quarterback. I mean, Miami's offensive line, I'm not saying they were the best in the country last year or anything, but they were, relatively decent, right, Matt? Like they weren't horrible, but it's hard to argue that when you bring in now Zach Carpenter from Indiana to play center, he's okay. He's a veteran college football player who's seen time, no different than Matt Lee. Is he better, worse than Matt Lee? Not really sure at this point, but at least they found a replacement for Matt Lee. And now, there's competition at guard. You've got, Matthew McCoy, Samson Okunola, Markel Bell sitting there that could play tackle, allowing Francis Magoa to move to guard. So Alex Mirball and Mario Cristobal have a lot of options on the O-line. But you would be really stretched. The other positions were not difficult. This one, you would be stretched a little bit to try to make an argument that this line is better than last year. And you certainly can't say it's worse because what we thought was really good, the NFL yawned at. So time will tell if the NFL yawns again. There is a belief that Jalen Rivers is going to be highly regarded by the NFL after this season. But Matt, the O-line should be pretty good this year, but I don't think you can dispute the fact that it's also a work in progress because of the replacements that they do have to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I already spoke about it. I'm not going to, unlike you, I'm not going to say the same thing over and over again. So,
well, I'm giving you a chance to add. I'm telling you that I agree with what you said. Unlike some other crazy things you've said on this show today, I'm agreeing with you on this, and I'm giving you a chance to elaborate for a minute.
I mean, if Cam McCormick moves to the offensive line, it'll probably be about the same offense they have anyway. There won't be any difference. That's all I can add because everything else I already said. The line could be worse. I literally said the line could be worse. It could be better. We don't know. They lost 2 key starters. To me, a downgraded center. The other 3 returning starters should be better than they were last year. So that's a plus. And you have an open spot that they got to figure out.
So 4 of the 5 positions on offense we think are better than a year ago. That's
not what we think. That's what you think. I literally just said what I think.
Okay. I think 4 of the 5 are better. Okay. The hell with what Matt thinks.
There you go.
Who cares? 4 or 5 are better. No question about it, in my opinion. And Shannon Dawson, time to show us, man. Like, no excuses this year. This needs to be a high octane offense that scores in the high 30s or 40s every single game. If it can do that, Miami's going to be a tough out for anybody to keep up with. They are not playing any great quarterbacks this year. Not that we've found so far. And this offense has an opportunity to carry this football team. So we'll see how it goes. All right, let me move on. Our 50-1 countdown of all the players on the team continues today with number 45, Nye Carr. Yesterday, believe it or not, number 46 was Cam McCormick, of all people. We didn't have a show, so we didn't talk about it. And we've certainly spoken enough about Cam McCormick here on this show today. Number 45, Nye Carr, a freshman receiver that came in with very high expectations. He participated in spring practice. He did a lot of really good things. I would say he's not quite as ready as JoJo Trader appeared to us, Matt. But I think we saw enough of Nye Carr to project that he will have a lot of really good moments as a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the list for a reason. It is 50 of the 85 guys. But I thought he looked really good this spring. And if JoJo Trader wasn't on the roster this spring, I think everyone would have been talking a lot more about Nye Carr. He is definitely not one to sleep on. A really outstanding skill set for him.
All right. As usual, we do have several recruiting stories for you guys to take a look at today. Among them, a 300-pound defensive tackle who's now considering Miami. He's also being recruited by Auburn, Tennessee. His name is Tufanoa Iontana. I hope I pronounced that right. Some people just call him T, from what I understand. I don't, a lot easier than trying to pronounce his name. He is from Englewood, Colorado. Like I said, a defensive tackle, 6'3", 300. But he's in the 2026 class. Miami has started getting familiar with him. We've got an update on what he thinks about Miami. We also have a story on 4-star offensive tackle Zaire Addison. Alex Mirabal visited him on Monday of this week. Their conversations are going well. We spoke to Addison. He's from Tampa, Sumner High School, a 4-star offensive tackle. You can catch up on what his thoughts are on Miami at this stage of the process. And we'll have some other recruiting stories coming your way as well. We are on commitment watch for this evening. We think we might have a commitment coming your way later. So stay tuned for that. And also on the website today, we have a look at Miami, what Miami's getting in its latest basketball commitment. And that's a guard Divine Ugochukwu. I hope I pronounced that one right. Man, they are giving us some hard names to pronounce today. But his coach describes him as a high IQ point guard with elite athleticism. We take a look at that and much more through the eyes of his coach. And you could read that on the website today as well. So that's going to do it for this morning for Good Morning CaneSport. A lot to be excited about on the offensive side of the ball, Canes fans. Let's start getting fired up. Not too many more months before we make that trip up the highway to go back to the swamp and play the Florida Gators. That will obviously be one of the highlights of this 2024 season. And I'm already fired up. I'm sure many of you are too. So for Matt Chodell, I'm Gary Furman. We thank you again for joining us this morning and starting your day with us. And we will see you next time, everybody.